So, you're considering going on Birthright and you're wondering what to expect. Let's talk about Birthright Israel. Birthright is a 10-day trip designed to encourage Jewish youth to be more invested in their religion and Israel itself. A few Jewish philanthropists cover most of the cost of the trip, and over $5 billion has been contributed since 1999. The age range of who is allowed to go on the trip is kind of fluid. Now, when I went, they were just kind of ending the 27 to 32 range of the trip and bringing it back to a younger crowd. Let's talk about what Birthright provides. You have to make a $250 down payment toward the trip, which you get back at the end. They provide all of the housing, attractions, and dinner. You do have to buy lunch most days, but it's usually $10, $15 maximum. Oh, and they contribute the flight to and from Israel. Okay, let's talk itinerary. So we landed at Ben Gurion Airport. This was COVID time, so we got like double tested right away. Right from there, we headed to the north of Israel, to the Galilee region, just north of the Galilee, and we started exploring the Golan Heights for the next 3 days. During this time, we learned about Jewish history and its heritage, and when you're up there, you really get a feel for how small Israel is and how close its borders are to its neighboring countries. After we spent time in the Golan, we headed down the Jordan River down to Jerusalem, and it happened to coincide with Shabbat when we got there. Now, Jerusalem is unique in Israel, but especially in contrast to a city like Tel Aviv. The entire city shuts down on Shabbat. Everything kind of slows down. There's no more cars driving around. The way that our tour organizer designed it, we kind of followed Shomer Shabbos. We did everything that normal Jerusalem residents who are Jewish would do during this time. After Shabbat, we headed down to a Bedouin camp just south of Jerusalem, and I would say that this was one of my not favorite experiences of the trip. While it was cool sleeping out in the desert in a big yurt hut kind of deal, this place was more of like a hotel that's been much more commercialized over the years. The next morning we caught the sunrise while hiking up Masada and then spent a few hours in the Dead Sea. We also got to do a really cool hike along a river it was like a stream inside of a canyon. And this is something that is very unique to our tour, but I was happy that our guide was very into nature and hiking because that's what I wanted to do. After spending the day hiking at Masada, Dead Sea, hiking along a stream, we took the bus back to Tel Aviv for the night, and then our trip was going to be over. Since we were older, our guide gave us a lot more leeway than he would a younger group of people, so he kind of just let us go and explore certain bars and restaurants and areas. And we went to an awesome Ethiopian restaurant when we were in Tel Aviv. Highly recommend getting Ethiopian food while you're in Israel. There's a large Jewish Ethiopian population there. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Get to the food, Jacob. The food in Israel is so much better than in America. Whether we're talking about a gas station coffee shop has like a professional quality espresso machine. The food in Israel is so much more fresh, and you can expect kind of like a Mediterranean diet there, similar to the raw foods that you would get in Greece or Italy, just prepared differently. One similarity to the food that you would have in, say, Greece is the gyro, or in Israel it's more commonly known as like shawarma, and we had tons of shawarma. Falafel was also like a go-to lunch meal, and again, I said you have to pay for lunches. There's always a range of, you could either pay $7 for a shawarma sandwich, or you could pay $30 for some larger platter with a bunch of different fixings, and we often did that and just split it between two people. If you're at a hotel or if you're at a restaurant or something, they're going to keep kosher. So our breakfasts were always like the dairy meal of the day, and it usually consisted of eggs and yogurts and cheeses and pastries. And some kids were getting kind of tired of it by the end, but I never minded. Then lunch and dinner were meat meals. Like I said, usually we would have shawarma or falafel. Fries are also very popular there. And you could even scrounge up a burger if you wanted one, but not a cheeseburger. And then dinner, we would usually go to some type of restaurant. Oh, now is the time that we get to talk about Tamol Shilshom. This is a restaurant that I highly recommend going to when you're in Israel. If you have to extend your trip and go to Tamol Shilshom in Jerusalem, you should go and do that. This place is a tiny little hole-in-the-wall bookstore/restaurant. Okay, let's talk logistics for the trip. So you're gonna be responsible for getting to whatever airport that you'll be flying out of to get to Israel. I think El Al does all of the flights for Birthright, and you can expect kind of like a interview as you're leaving. I think that there's flights out of Newark and JFK and also Miami and LAX. Now, if you can, I'd recommend bringing a backpack on this trip instead of a suitcase. Not everybody has a backpack that they can pack 10 days worth of clothes and other items into. There's lots of rocky paths, these old cobblestones that you have to walk over. Don't expect to have access to laundry machines while you're on Birthright, so pack the entire 10 days worth of clothes and make sure that you pack for the right time of year. Bring a rain jacket no matter what. So since there's no access to laundry machines on the trip, I will tell you, I washed my clothes 2 times that I think in a bathtub at one of the hotels that we were staying at. The clothes dry overnight just sitting out in your hotel room or out on a windowsill. I know you're probably gonna wanna do this trip with your friends, but I highly encourage you just to go on Birthright by yourself. Believe me, you all have a connection by being Jewish and deciding to go on this trip at the same time. You'll make friends quickly. I was so glad that I did not go with friends because it made it so that I just had to focus outward, meet all the other people. I think that the people who went alone came out of the trip with more lifelong friendships. While Birthright feels like a single organization, and that's kind of how it's described, it's actually run by many third parties. And despite this, I think that you can expect relatively the same trip from everybody, even though you might kind of go a different route around the country. There are trips that you can choose though that are focused more on nature or food or Judaism. How good your trip is really comes down to your tour guide. I was so lucky to have an amazing tour guide on our trip. His name was Shabbat. Thank you, Shabbat. Everything really comes down to just this person and their enthusiasm and knowledge about Israel. You can extend your trip in Israel for up to 90 days after Birthright. Travel in Israel is super easy, whether you want to get a transport card and travel around by bus or train, it's super cheap. I got to spend the night with one of the IDF soldiers and his family, and I also went on a hike from the Sea of Galilee to the Mediterranean. I stayed at a cool hostel in Tel Aviv and also one in Jerusalem. What I decided to do was use this as an opportunity to fly to Europe after. So I flew from Tel Aviv to Naples, Italy. From there, I just kicked off a whole European adventure and found my way back to America later on. If you're considering going on Birthright, I cannot recommend this trip enough to you. I waited so many years and nearly got out of the age range to do it. Go right when you graduate high school if you can. Get out there, explore the world, see how different people live. No matter what you've heard of Israel, I'm sure that some perspectives will be shown to you that you are not expecting. If anybody's watching this, they have any more questions, stuff that I did not cover, please leave a comment below and I will be happy to answer your questions.